I can't believe this is working. Okay, so you know how sometimes you get a load of texts and can't be bothered to reply to all of them, and then you just forget and never reply at all. Lately, I've been pretty busy at work, and whenever my girlfriend texts me, either because I'm in a meeting or doing a crunch sesh, I just forget to reply. Okay, so here's the elevator pitch. I need to train a machine to understand human language and reply to my girlfriend's live texts. Cool, let's get started. Okay, so let's say you have a sentence like, I like that. To a computer, this is complete gibberish. We have to find a way to transform the words into numbers. I want to build a little table that has as columns the words that are in my sentence, and we create a row, and for each column in that row, we go word by word and we put a 1 if that word is in our sentence. Otherwise, we put a 0. In our case, I'm just going to fill in 1 for everything here because every single one of these words is in my sentence. But let's say I add a second sentence and it says, I like dogs. What I want to do is create a second row. Once again, go column by column and check if the words in the sentence are also in my table. But there's one more step. Dogs is not in my table, so there's something missing here. So I want to add an extra column that says dogs. And then I want to fill in those values. So I'll first fill them in for my original sentence, which was I like that, and that will have a 0 because there's no dogs in that. And then I want to do it again for the second sentence, and this one will have a 1. The idea is I want to keep doing this over and over for all the new texts that I'm fed in Facebook. And every time you want to keep adding columns if there's new words in that sentence that the model hasn't seen before. And for each new sentence, you want to keep adding a new row. And the table will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And through the system, the AI can actually transform sentences into numbers. And each single row in this table is this like unique numerical signature that corresponds to every given sentence in the human language. When the model is given a new sentence that it hasn't seen before, it will just refer back to this huge table and go step by step, column by column, fill in 1s and 0s, and that's going to be the way it understands and relates this new sentence back to the closest similar sentence from its training data. So now that we have a game plan, let's get back to coding. To start, I need some data to actually train the model. Because it has to replicate how we speak, I need some data from our actual conversation. So I went on Facebook and pulled a JSON of all of our interactions. Now for this video, I don't want to build some complex speech generating model. Instead, I want to build a chatbot. Now a chatbot is something pretty much everyone could build from scratch, and I'll have a video tutorial actually up in a few weeks to teach you how to do it. And secondly, it can still perform really well. Now what the AI chatbot will be trying to do is pick up on certain patterns in our conversations and then spit out some pre-written reply depending on the context that it picked up in that conversation. To go into a little bit more detail, I will break the AI down into several different models, and each model will do a different thing. So a first model will be fed a text, and it will try to understand if that text is happy, sad, or neutral. And we can call this the sentiment model. A second model will be deciding if the text is an open question or a yes or no question or a statement, and we can call this the sentence type model. A third model will be predicting if a text relates to certain recurring topics, and as topics I picked greeting, so if someone's saying hi, hello, hey, greeting follow-up, so things like how are you, what are you up to, and then 2 more topics that come up frequently in our conversations, one of which for instance is just food. There's also a model that understands whether the text requires a response or if it's the end of the conversation. Basically, the way the chatbot will work is it will understand from context whether a given text falls into any of these themes that we just talked about. And then it will try to output some pre-written response that is pertinent to that theme. So for instance, if I have a text that is being classed as a statement and as sad and as requiring a response, it might say, sorry to hear that, or that sucks. Now, on top of everything I mentioned, I just want to add one little thing. If the text I get sent doesn't fall into any of the topics that is specified for the topic model, so for instance, it's not a greeting follow-up, it's not about food, and so on, and the model thinks it's an open question, then that's pretty much a disaster zone for the chatbot, because it has to give an involved answer, but it doesn't even know what the question is about. So in this case, and in this case only, I've programmed it to fall back on a state-of-the-art speech generative model built by OpenAI called Dialogue GPT. And this model will be able to come up with completely original sentences that are related to the question that's actually being asked, and will hopefully be able to keep up this facade. For any of this to actually work, the model needs past examples of texts and know what categories they fall into. So I've gone back to my Facebook data and manually labeled about 400 texts because I have no life. For each individual text, I added columns to specify if the text is sad or happy or an open question. And over time and over examples, the model will be able to understand what kind of words and what kind of sentences and patterns correspond to each of these categories. Okay, all done. I know most of you don't care about the code that much or the technical details, so I won't spend a lot of time on this, but if you're interested, I'm just going to paste a bit of stuff that I've actually done in the code here, and you can pause and read it a bit better. That aside, let's get to some cool results that I got from actually running the code. I wrote down the main numbers, and I'll just be reading them because I can't be bothered to remember literally 4 percentages. The model, turns out, is 60% accurate at deciding if a text is happy, sad, or neutral, which isn't too bad. The random chance of guessing that is 33%. It's 82% accurate at classifying a text as either yes or no question, an open question, or a statement. It's 70% accurate at picking if the text is a greeting, a follow-up about food, or some other topic. And it's 76% accurate at deciding if the text requires a response or not. So, if I say, "How are you doing?" you know that you have to reply. If I say, "Okay," or like, "Cool, talk to you later," you don't need to reply. It's been a really long day of coding, so I'm actually gonna head to bed now. When I wake up tomorrow, we'll actually try this out in real life. Okay, so I just got my first text from her, and it just says, "Hey," so we're off to an easy start. I'll plug this into the model and see what it wants me to say, and I'll type whatever it says. So it says to say hi. Now she's written okay. Let me put that in, but that should tell the model that it has to exit the conversation. And yeah, so the model says no response, which is its own way of saying the conversation is ended. Okay, so we ran the model yesterday and it worked pretty well, but it was kind of a short exchange and the sentences were quite simple, so I'm gonna keep running this pretty much until it breaks. The model actually picked that up correctly and it says to type nope. Okay, so it's been a few days of me actually using the chatbot on and off, and I just got a bit of a more involved text, so I just figured I'd switch on the camera and see how the AI actually does. So let me just type all of this in and we'll see what it says. The model doesn't seem to have quite understood that. It's understanding correctly that it's a statement, not a question, and that it needs a response, but it seems to think that it's something funny or positive in terms of sentiment, whereas obviously it's negative. Okay, so I think I have to step in. On day 6 of trying this chatbot out, it seems it finally sort of cracked, but pretty good run. Okay, so this was a really fun project, and it's amazing how an AI can actually perform tasks that resemble true communication, but at the end of the day, it's still just a machine, and it's nice to come home to the ones you love. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, check out my other uploads. I do a lot of fun little projects where I apply AI to my everyday life. I think NLP is one of the hottest areas in artificial intelligence right now, and it was really fun to explore that today, and I can't wait to see its applications in mental health, translation, and search optimization, and so much more.